Here are the top stories of the news. Federal government to establish over 100 oxygen generation plants to ensure oxygen sufficiency. Gunmen kill 4 persons in Hiala local government area of Anambra State. On the foreign scene, Peru's top prosecutor launches inquiry into president and key ministers over weeks of clashes. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohura. The federal government says it plans to establish over 100 oxygen generation plants across the country to ensure oxygen sufficiency. Minister of Health Osage Ehanere said this in Abuja during the 17th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration scorecard series. According to Dr. Ehanere, before the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, there were less than 30 functional oxygen plants in the country, and the pandemic gave rise to the need for oxygen sufficiency. It said the many responses to the pandemic came with certain benefits, which include the activation of old, moribund oxygen plants and the establishment of new ones. He added that the federal government was able to establish molecular laboratories at every federal tertiary hospital, construct and equip 10-bedded intensive care units and isolation units in every tertiary hospital. In the meantime, Executive Secretary National Health Insurance Authority Mohammed Sambo says there are plans to distribute NHIA-branded drugs to healthcare facilities and also prescribe them to NHIA enrollees. Professor Sambo made the disclosure in Abuja during the 17th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration scorecard series, which featured the Minister of Health. According to him, the NHIA Medicine Supply Initiative has been established, and the committee is working to finalize the selection of companies that will be manufacturing drugs for Nigerians with NHIA branding. He also said that the world over there was an essential drug list for health insurance and that Nigeria also has such a list. On the strength of health insurance in a growing economic like Nigeria, Professor Sambo said the power and potency of health insurance was the ability to pool resources for health insurance using cross-subsidization.
That is what will enable you to do actuarial determination of the service that you will deliver. So you realize that in a developing country, in a thriving economy, the kind of services that you will purchase will match the amount of the pool that you have gathered. Therefore, you cannot gather small amount of money and expect huge amount of services. We have to go with the level of our development as we are developing. There is going to be increase in physical space, there will be increase in economic growth, and there will be increase in salary of workers, and there will be more contribution in the health insurance fund.
Still talking health, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has threatened to go on a nationwide strike if the federal government does not meet its demands. The association said this in a letter signed by its president, Innocent Orji, and addressed to the Minister of Health, Osage Ehanere. The association in its letter said it had issued an ultimatum to the federal government 6 months ago on account of issues such as irregularities in the new circular on upward review of the Medical Residency Training Fund. Other concerns raised by the association include outstanding payment of the arrears of the new hazard allowance, non-payment of the skipping arrears for 2014, 2015, and 2016, and non-payment of the consequential adjustment of minimum wage to some of the members. The association also cited issues such as delaying the upward review of the consolidated medical salary structure, salary arrears of members in state tertiary health institutions, and non-domestication of the Medical Residency Training Act in most states. Elsewhere, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has advised traditional rulers in Anambra State to get involved in the 2023 general election. Mr. Obi said this during a meeting with traditional rulers in Awka, the Anambra capital. The former Anambra governor blamed the challenges the country is facing on inflation, unemployment, and insecurity, adding that there is a need for the country to take advantage of its agricultural potential to tackle unemployment. The traditional ruler of Okuno community, Sunday Okafo, said the traditional rulers are happy with the wave being made by Mr. Obi. A high court sitting in Yola, Adamawa State has restrained the All Progressives Congress APC from recognizing Elisha Abbo as a senatorial candidate for the Adamawa North in the forthcoming general election. In the judgment, Justice Muhammad Danladi held that having been expelled from his ward, the senator cannot seek nomination under the party or re-election. The judge said the expulsion of the lawmaker by the Mubi North Local Government Council executives on October 7, 2022, binds Senator Abbo and the APC. The council had expelled Senator Abbo for alleged anti-party activities following his criticism and resistance to the APC's Muslim presidential ticket. The court, in its judgment, further restrained the senator from parading himself as the candidate of the party for the senatorial district. Senator Abbo has said he would appeal the judgment. Trial of convicted billionaire kidnapper Chukwudumeme Onwamadike, popularly known as Evans, was told yesterday at the Lagos High Court sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square owing to the absence of his counsel. Evans and his co-defendants Joseph Emeka, Victor Aduba and Okpara Linus were brought before Justice Sharifa Tonaike on two separate charges. They were to be rearranged on charges bordering on conspiracy to kidnap, kidnapping and attempted murder following the transfer of the case from Justice Adedayo Akintoye to Justice Tonaike. Further hearing on the matter has been adjourned by Justice Tonaike till January 26, 2023 for the rearrangement of the defendants. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says it has recorded 6 successful bids for forfeited real estate assets. EFCC spokesperson Wilson Umujare announced the development in a statement. Mr. Umujare said 12 properties situated in Lagos were initially offered for sale through competitive bidding. However, at the end of the bidding exercise, the bids for 6 properties were successful. It said the bids for the remaining 6 properties were unsuccessful on grounds of non-compliance with the guidelines or the highest fallen short of the reserve price. Talking security, gunmen have killed 4 persons on Uzumiu Street in Eziani community, Ihala local government area of Anambra State. It was gathered that the gunmen invaded the community yesterday and started shooting into the air, thereby killing the victims, 3 males and a female, who was said to be pregnant. Confirming the attack in a statement, the state police spokesperson DSP Tochukwu Ikenga said the bodies of the victims had been deposited at the mortuary. As a preliminary information revealed that the criminal elements armed with AK-47 started shooting indiscriminately and unprovoked, and unfortunately, bullets hit 4 unarmed civilians. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is. affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. Fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled.
Welcome back. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has inaugurated 11-man committee chaired by Professor Taiwo Ashaolu of the Obafemi Awolowo University to review the sources of funds for both capital and recurrent expenditure for the eventual takeoff of the University of Ilesha. The governor, while inaugurating the committee, also tasked them to holistically review the implementation guidelines, among other things. The governor said Ijesha land is a territory of personal interest to his government, adding that his administration is committed to satisfying the needs and aspirations of the good people of Ilesha and environs. While speaking today on Morning Spring, a Western Spring television program, spokesperson to Governor Adeleke, Malam Olawale Rashid, said the move was aimed at ensuring the right things were done.
To it, and His Excellency is open to any ideas that can ensure sustainable takeoff of the university.
All right. Can you please take us through a step-by-step guide of what we are to expect from this committee in the coming 6 weeks?
You said?
Can you take us through a guide of what we are to expect from this committee in the next 6 weeks?
Yes, now if you look at the terms of reference, so and incidentally we have a very tested academic administrator and actor, Professor Shaolu, as the chairman. We also have distinguished, highly qualified members of the panel, of the committee, who will do justice. So what you will expect is that from terms of reference 1 to the last, the committee will dig into any existing and whatever report, and they will also look to best practices. So in terms of fulfilling the mandate or given by His Excellency. So we should expect a very robust committee work.
In Bayelsa State, Governor Duyediri has expressed regret at the estimated 250,000 out-of-school children in the state, saying the figure was worrisome and alarming. He urged parents, traditional rulers, and community leaders to join hands with the government to reverse the trend. Mr. Diri spoke during the inauguration of a national campaign on out-of-school children organized by the Federal Ministry of Education. The governor said his administration would do its part to ensure that education was accessible to every child of school age in Bayelsa, and urged parents and community leaders to ensure they enroll their children and wards in schools. He said the Bayelsa government supported free primary and secondary education by purchasing uniforms and instructional materials. In other news, the Nigerian Immigration Service says not less than 140,000 international passports are uncollected nationwide. NIS spokesperson Tonia Kuneme shared the development in an interview with the news agency of Nigeria in Lagos. Mr. Kuneme said about 40,000 of the total 140,000 are in the Alausa Passport Office in Ikeja. It said the majority of the uncollected passports had wrong phone contact and untraceable addresses. It called on applicants to process their international passports themselves using the correct details and without involving racketeers. Moving on to the foreign scene, Peru's top prosecutor has launched an inquiry into President Dina Boluarte and key ministers over weeks of clashes that have left dozens of people dead. The officials have been investigated on charges of genocide, qualified homicide, and serious injuries. Violence erupted after ex-President Pedro Castillo was arrested in December for trying to dissolve Congress. On Monday, 17 people died in clashes between Castillo supporters and security forces in southeastern Peru. Dozens more were injured in the city of Juliaca in what was the worst day of violence so far. Many of the victims had gunshot wounds. The authorities accused the protesters of trying to overrun Juliaca's airport and a local police station. An overnight curfew is now in place in the region. In the meantime, Brazil's judicial authorities have ordered the arrest of top public officials after rioters stormed key government buildings in Brasilia. One official, the former commander of the military police, has been arrested. The Attorney General's office said the officials also include Brazilia's former public security chief, Anderson Torres, and others responsible for acts and omissions leading to the riots. Mr. Torres denies any role in the riots. Colonel Fabio Augusto, the police commander, was dismissed from his role after supporters of ex-president Jair Bolsonaro stormed Congress, the presidential palace, and the Supreme Court. The rioting came a week after President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, widely known as Lula, was sworn in. In the United Kingdom, ambulance staff embarked on a strike action in many parts of England and all of Wales today in a dispute over pay and staffing. The strikes, according to the union Unison, will involve all ambulance employees as opposed to just 999 will involve all ambulance employees as opposed to just 999 response crews who took action in December. Unison said many of the service's employees are likely to be exempted from the strike action under emergency cover plans. The coordinated walkout involves two main ambulance unions, Unison and GMB, and will affect non-life-threatening calls. Ambulance workers are also planning to strike on the 23rd of January. Meanwhile, UK Health Secretary Steve Barclay says the most important category 1 calls are being covered despite the ambulance staff action.
Delays to ambulances, obviously, it is concerning in terms of our ability to that care, but we've been working with the unions constructively on what cover they will put in place. I'm very pleased that we have cover from the unions. Are they risking
lives by going on strike?
Well, it's clearly a concern in terms of the impact that it has on patient safety, but we're working constructively with the unions in terms of particularly for life-threatening calls. So we're saying to people to be mindful of that, but if they do have a life-threatening condition, the most urgent category 1 calls are.
The Nigeria Customs Service says it will do everything necessary to promote trade and generate revenue for the country. Comptroller General NCS Ahmed Ali spoke at the decoration ceremony of the 3 newly appointed Assistant Comptroller Generals and other officers of the service held in Abuja. According to the 2023 appropriation bill recently signed by President Muhammadu Buhari, customs revenue stood at 639.65 billion naira between January and November 2022. The federal government said the customs collections for the period comprising import duties, excise fees, and special levies exceeded the target by 15.42 billion naira, representing a 102% performance in revenue generation. The World Bank has warned of a possible global recession in 2023, citing Russia's war in Ukraine, rising inflation, a hike in central bank interest rates, and the resurgence of COVID-19 as major factors that could cause the global economic downturn. In a statement, the bank said it would expect global GDP to grow by 1.7% in 2023 instead of the 3% it had earlier predicted in June 2022. The new forecast indicates that the GDP for 2023 will grow at the slowest rate in 30 years outside of the recessions of 2009 and 2020. Major slowdowns in advanced economies, including sharp reductions in its forecast to 0.5% for both the U.S. and the Eurozone, according to the bank, could portend a new global recession that would occur less than 3 years after that of 2020. Moving to sports, Manchester United manager Eric Ten Hag says he sees a future if Fusundo Pellistri after the forward made his long-awaited debut for the club after more than 2 years. Pelestri was signed under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer from Uruguayan side Penarrow in 2020, but had to wait until last night's 3-0 Carabao Cup quarter-final win against Charlton to make his debut off the bench. Despite coming on with 6 minutes of regulation time to go, Pelestri made an impact by assisting Marcus Rashford's first goal to make it 2-0 and leave his manager smiling.
We see we progressing after the winter. We had many games now with, I think this is the third time we're winning with 3-0. So that's good. But of course, I think we have to be more clinical. But I think we have scoring players in our team, and I think the most what's now what you see, of course, is Reggie. That's quite obvious, and that wasn't in the start of the season, but now he's in the right run. But I'm convinced that more players can do it, like Anthony Martial, he can do it. Bruno Fernandes, definitely he can do it. So. Alejandro, he can do it. Anthony, he can do it. Also, Anthony scored now twice in a row, Everton and today. So I think we have players enough to score those goals, and also from the back, we are also now scoring from set plays. So I think we are progressing.
Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The federal government says it plans to establish over 100 oxygen generation plants across the country to ensure oxygen sufficiency. Gunmen have killed 4 persons on Uzomu Street in Eziani community, Ihala local government area of Anambra State. And on the foreign scene, Peru's top prosecutor has launched an inquiry into President Dina Boluarte and key ministers over weeks of clashes that have left dozens of people dead. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. I am Evelyn Ohiole. Many thanks for your time.